Dear Patriots, before the news starts, please subscribe to our patriotic channel by clicking the subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up to this video. Don't forget to leave your opinion below in the comments section. Share the news on Facebook and Twitter so your friends see it. Thank you.
Even in Trump's White House, being nice can pay off. In the reality competition of Survivor, White House edition, senior aide Johnny DeStefano is coming out ahead. He's outlasted President Donald Trump's first chief of staff, Reince Priebus, and chief strategist Steve Bannon, as well as 4 White House communications directors, 1 national security advisor, 1 director of the National Economic Council and a secretary of state, not to mention roughly 25 of his fellow White House aides. Amid the recent West Wing exodus, DeStefano, who initially ran the Office of Presidential Personnel, has seen his portfolio grow. He now supervises the office responsible for hiring political appointees at agencies as well as the White House political shop monitoring the midterm elections and the Office of Public Liaison, which is responsible for outreach to outside groups and supporters. It's a portfolio that arguably rivals the one held by Karl Rove under President George W. Bush, even if, internally, DeStefano is not seen as the same kind of master strategist. But 10 senior administration officials and close White House advisors say DeStefano has managed to increase his power and stick around in an infamously cutthroat environment the old-fashioned way, by being nice to everyone. DeStefano's experience inside the White House offers a roadmap for other aides who want to thrive and enjoy themselves in the Trump orbit, avoid the limelight, act like a staffer instead of a star and never pick sides among the White House's various factions. Johnny has had a standing weekly appointment to talk about personnel with the president. They've come to know each other better. Johnny does not sugarcoat bad news, and often compliments a colleague's efforts where others might spend that time puffing up themselves, said presidential counselor Kellyanne Conway. DeStefano, 39, was initially tagged as a Priebus acolyte and spent the first few months of the administration battling with a handful of cabinet secretaries over personnel issues, including Rex Tillerson, who once blew up at DeStefano in front of colleagues inside the West Wing. But the longtime aide to former House Speaker John Boehner has bridged the establishment and Trump wings of the White House, cultivating relationships with the President, Chief of Staff John Kelly, and Kelly's former deputy and close ally Kirstjen Nielsen, now the Secretary of Homeland Security. He's able to do this, allies and friends say, by coming across as non-threatening. His status is reflected in his real estate. He recently moved from the first floor of the Eisenhower Executive Office building to the second floor of the West Wing into the office previously occupied by departed top National Security Advisor Dinah Powell, where he sits alongside Conway, Ivanka Trump, soon-to-depart Chief Economic Advisor Gary Cohn, and Dongan, the top White House attorney. DeStefano now regularly travels with the president and can often be seen folding his tall frame into Marine One. Inside the White House, DeStefano has developed a reputation as someone who gets along with almost everyone but is comfortable enough to publicly contradict his colleagues and superiors, including presidential son-in-law and advisor Jared Kushner. He is very upfront. I've sat in staff meetings with him, and even if his point is contrary to Jared's, Johnny will push back and is very good at doing so. People respect him, said one former White House official. But to detractors, DeStefano's ascendance is also emblematic of how shallow the bench of talent is for Republicans willing to work in this White House. Here is someone who ran the Presidential Personnel Office and was not viewed as doing it that well, said one person close to the White House. So there is a lot of irony that someone whose performance has been fine but sort of mediocre now has more responsibility. This person added that DeStefano had benefited from the unusual level of turnover around him. DeStefano was in the right place at the right time. DeStefano did not respond to requests for comment. Originally, DeStefano had no designs on joining the Trump White House during the 2016 presidential campaign, according to close friends and former colleagues. The Missouri native had worked for the House Republican Conference, the National Republican Congressional Committee, Ohio Republican Representative Deborah Price's re-election campaign, and as political director and senior advisor to House Speaker John Boehner, also from Ohio. After Boehner retired, DeStefano became the president and chief executive officer of the Data Trust, the Republican Party's main outside data firm which, when he joined in 2013, was struggling to play catch-up with the Democrats' data and tech prowess in campaigns. It's since grown to have roughly 30 staffers. Data Trust's biggest client was the Republican National Committee, which was then run by Priebus. In the fall of 2016, Priebus went looking for someone to run the Presidential Personnel Office and tapped DeStefano. His appointment at first alarmed Trump supporters who feared DeStefano would stack the federal government with Republicans who would not be true to the Trump agenda. But the pick made sense, say some of DeStefano's friends and former colleagues, because his job in Boehner's office was to place members on committees and handle problems quietly on behalf of the Speaker, like urging the resignation of one lawmaker who had a drug problem and another who had a relationship with a subordinate. DeStefano had to handle such problems while maintaining good relationships with other lawmakers, staff and donors. Between Christmas and New Year's Eve 2016, DeStefano started his job overseeing the administration's personnel picks, really, the hiring of thousands of political appointees, counselors and ambassadors at everywhere from the Department of Education to State, Treasury, Commerce and the Environmental Protection Agency. He entered the White House with no real rosters of potential staffers, no process for finding candidates for them and tons of jobs to fill. During the first few months of the Trump presidency, the Personnel Office regularly came under fire for the slow pace of nominations, the lack of appointees going through the clearance process, and the skeletal crews of political people running agencies, a fact that critics and conservatives say slowed down Trump's ability to begin to institute his agenda. Allies of DeStefano, both inside and outside the administration, say he inherited a mess of a situation after the ouster of the first transition leader, former New Jersey Republican Governor Chris Christie, and did the best he could. But DeStefano bore the brunt of that criticism, without publicly pushing back. One of DeStefano's earliest claims to fame in the administration came shortly after Trump's inauguration, when he signed the White House letter that fired Acting Attorney General Sally Yates after she refused to enact Trump's travel ban executive order. Yet during that time, he also tussled with Kelly, then serving as Secretary of DHS, over a handful of political appointments. When Kelly then moved over to the White House to serve as Chief of Staff in July 2017, DeStefano assumed he was in trouble, according to people familiar with his situation. The U.S. Capitol as seen on October 25, 2016. John Schenkel, Politico. Kelly's closest ally in the administration, Nielsen, even carried out her own internal analysis over the summer to examine the personnel problems in the West Wing, effectively checking over his work, said one administration official. But Kelly soon came to see DeStefano as a competent staffer who did not seek the spotlight and made him part of the Chief of Staff's tiny inner circle, according to two people close to the White House. Kelly even admitted once in front of the president in the Oval Office that he and DeStefano used to fight during Kelly's stint at DHS, but that Kelly had come to view DeStefano as someone who knew his shit, according to one of the people close to the White House. This fall, that level of trust translated into a border portfolio for DeStefano in which he oversees 3 offices and the heads of those offices, personnel, public liaison and the political office. This new role has placed DeStefano above the original head of the political office, Bill Stepien, a former New Jersey political operative who's close to Kushner, and it will give him much more influence over the crucial, upcoming midterm elections. I think a lot of people underestimate Johnny, but he is really good at building relationships and always has been, says Mike Summers, Boehner's former chief of staff. He's been effective in every position he has been in. At age 23, coming out of St. Louis University, a lot of people never would have thought he would be where he is today. Pelosi leads delegation to Israel, Jordan. House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, Democrat California, will lead a delegation of Democrats to the Middle East beginning Saturday with stops in Israel and Jordan. 10 House Democrats will accompany Pelosi on the trip, which will focus on global and regional security and cooperation issues, according to her office. Our delegation is pleased to be able to extend the congratulations of the American people to the people of Israel as we celebrate the 70th anniversary of Jewish state this spring, Pelosi said in a statement. The overseas visit comes as Congress kicks off a 2-week Easter and Passover recess after passing a $1.3 trillion spending bill to fund the government through September. Overseas congressional trips, known as COTLs, are common when lawmakers have a lengthy break. Representative Adam Schiff, Democrat California, ranking member on the House Intelligence Committee, will accompany Pelosi, as will Representative Jim Himes, Democrat Connecticut, another member of the panel. Other members on the trip include Reps. Rosa DeLauro, Democrat Connecticut, Jan Sakowski, DL, Henry Queller, Democrat Texas, Hakeem Jeffries, DNY, and Catherine Clark, D-Mass. Freshman Reps. Donald McEachin, Democrat Virginia, Jimmy Panetta, Democrat California, and Jamie Raskin, DMD, will also take part. No Republicans are joining. Tensions between the U.S. and Jordan have been inflamed in recent months after President Donald Trump recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and announced plans to relocate the U.S. embassy there from Tel Aviv. Jordan's King Abdullah II called the U.S. decision to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital a complication to the Middle East peace process in an interview on CNN in early February. But the U.S. and Jordan signed an agreement later in February boosting annual U.S. aid to the country. In Jordan, our delegation travels at a vital time in the U.S. relationship with this key ally, Pelosi said. Members are particularly interested in reviewing the Syrian refugee and humanitarian challenges as well as addressing other critical challenges facing the region. Anderson Cooper bets heavily that Stormy is serious news. Anderson Cooper walked a fine line on 60 Minutes. For a newsman proud of visiting disaster zones and bringing attention to the dispossessed, Cooper risked embarrassment in his interview with porn star Stormy Daniels, but soldiered through with a deadpan stare and a furrowed brow. The ultimate verdict on his interview, almost certainly the most highly watched moment of his career, will be whether viewers accept his claim that this is serious news. He could have easily gone the tabloid route given the subject matter, an adult film star describing an alleged affair with the President of the United States. And the 39-year-old Daniels did offer some salacious details in the highly anticipated interview, such as how she spanked Trump with a magazine with his picture on the cover. Cooper didn't shy away from sex completely. He asked Daniels directly if Trump wore a condom. She says he didn't. But he also framed the exclusive interview as a story with ramifications that go well beyond what did or did not transpire between a porn star and a then reality star in a hotel room in 2006. The lengthy 60 Minutes segment covered claims of intimidation, non-disclosure agreements and lawsuits, while exploring the possibility that Michael Cohen, who paid Daniels $130,000 for her silence before the 2016 election, violated campaign finance law. 60 Minutes making this a campaign finance story, exactly why the whole country is watching right now, The Washington Post's Karen Tumulty tweeted. Cooper said on 60 Minutes Overtime, an online CBS piece that accompanied the television interview, that there are many tawdry details which we did not include in the story because it's just, that's not our interest. For us, it wasn't so much there was an affair, Cooper added. That's not as much the headline. For us, it's everything that has happened since and how we've gotten to this point. The biggest headline Sunday night was Daniels' claim that a man threatened her in a Las Vegas parking lot in 2011, a few weeks after she agreed to sell her story of the alleged Trump tryst to In Touch magazine. Leave Trump alone. Forget the story, the man said, by her account. She claimed the man also looked at her daughter, who was present, and said, "That's a beautiful little girl." It'd be a shame if something happened to her mom. That 2011 In Touch interview finally saw the light of day last month. The 5,000-word transcript included Daniels' description of the alleged spanking, along with other provocative details, and her recollection of Trump's fondness for Shark Week, a more comical detail that also appeared in the 60 Minutes interview. It remains to be seen if viewers walk away remembering the segment as tabloid fodder about a porn star and the president or something bigger. That goes for the TV news junkie sitting in the White House. Standout part of this interview is Stormy Daniels saying she wasn't attracted to Trump, the New York Times' Maggie Haberman tweeted. He was incredibly proud of the best sex I ever had in Y Post front page. That won't sit well. For political reporters and others who have been closely following the twists and turns in the Stormy Daniels saga in recent months, including the many interviews with her media-savvy attorney, Michael Avenatti, the 60 Minutes segment may have been a letdown. Some journalists had already concluded that there wasn't much to the 60 Minutes interview before it even aired, as CBS posted the transcript at 7 p.m. The actual broadcast was then delayed more than a half hour because the Duke Kansas NCAA tournament game went into overtime. But Daniels claims in a transcript, whether in 2011 to In Touch magazine or now to 60 Minutes, aren't the same as seeing a woman, credibly, accusing the sitting president of infidelity and one of his lawyers of trying to buy her silence. So Pandeb, a New York Times culture reporter who covered Trump's presidential campaign for CBS News, dismissed the yawns from some on Twitter. Someone goes on camera for the first time to discuss details, on the record, about her affair with the current president and possible threats, an affair Trump has denied but his lawyers has admitted to pay out to said someone, and we're all on here saying but what is the news? He wrote. Cooper clearly tried to make more news, such as asking Daniels if she has text messages or other items tying the alleged affair. My attorney has recommended that I don't discuss those things, she said. Cooper mused to Avenatti that he may be bluffing about having more materials, but the attorney didn't bite. You should ask some of the other people in my career when they've bet on me bluffing, he said. After the broadcast, Avenatti tried to raise the stakes, tweeting, any claim that there was nothing new other than the details of the threat is not only false but is also similar to asking other than the short interruption Mrs. Lincoln, what did you think of the play? In the post-interview segment, Cooper said he thinks there's more to come on this story. Mark Kelly Parkland shooting could be different. Gun control advocate Mark Kelly said the political results of activism after the massacre at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, could be different than the results after previous mass shootings. Kelly, a former astronaut who founded the gun control group Giffords with his wife, former Representative Gabby Giffords, said Sunday the group had made some progress in passing state-level laws since the deaths of 27 people at Sandy Hook Elementary School in 2012 but had been stymied at the congressional level. These young people seem quite motivated, and they realize that they have been dealt an incredibly difficult set of circumstances, have been put in a horrible position, Kelly said on ABC's This Week, adding, they want to see change. So that's why I think this could be different. Kelly's comments came the day after the March for Our Lives, which drew millions of protesters in Washington and at satellite marches across the country, to advocate for gun control measures after the Parkland massacre. The February 14 shooting left 17 people dead. Kelly told host Martha Raddatz he believes President Donald Trump would sign gun control legislation if it was passed fast. I'm hopeful that if we could get Congress, get the House and Senate to pass some sensible legislation, we get it to his desk, Kelly said. I think there's a pretty good chance he might sign it.